that's kind of exactly my thinking. So I've got 4 terabytes and 6 currently in there. Now I've been trying to work out because apparently my one is quite an old one, and the max volume is 16 terabytes. So I had thought that I could only put 2 8 terabytes in there, but I think I could put 2 16s, but have 2 volumes, separate volumes. So I'm not going to put 16 in there. I can't afford.
Don't you want to like back up? So you have the one.
It's not backup, and I don't have that currently. So I'd rather. I think I'd just put 2 12 terabytes in there. One for basic NAS stuff, and then the other for system backups from my 2 computers. I do not have any. I've no RAID redundancy.
Really, you wouldn't do it?
I can't. I only have 2 disks. All you can do is stripe it. So you've got is it stripe? Mirror it. So you get half the storage.
Well, you won't get hot.
Yeah, you put 2 4 terabytes in. They're mirrored. That gives you 4 terabytes of usable storage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it'll be half the space. You wouldn't be using the other half. You'll be just that would just be a complete copy. So if one hard drive fails, then it's like, oh, you got a backup, and then you just need to go out and buy another hard drive and then do a restore.
Yeah, pretty much. But
to be fair, I've also connected a external hard drive to it, but I don't really want to do that. But I was running out of space.
Yeah, I think what the other thought I had is that instead of having my MacBook and my main gaming computer both back up to that system, and I thought that doesn't have to be on a good hard drive. So like a little 4 terabyte portable hard drive just sticking out the back on the USB ports would be fine. Like one for the MacBook, one for the other laptop, and that would give me more storage on the main hard drives. This is why, like the other day, I was like saying like I want 2 terabyte SSDs, like one for the PlayStation, one for the gaming laptop, and I want at least 2 8 terabyte NAS hard drives for the NAS, as well as 2 4 terabyte external hard drives. And I'm just like, this is a bad time to need to buy 20 terabytes.
You're probably talking like 6-7 grand. Something silly like that.
Not well, yeah, in today's prices. And obviously I would have done this slowly, but yeah, it's really annoying because I'm in a position where I can kind of afford to have bought them all in August prices, but now that I've got the money, the one I actually in October I ordered an SSD, and I thought it's coming up to Christmas. I should probably wait till after Christmas before spending frivolous money. That was £130 for a good. I think it was a Crucial, a high end, a PlayStation 5 compatible NVMe 2 terabyte SSD, and then that same drive is now like 260 or 320. I can't quite remember. It's an obscene amount, and 130 gets you the 1 terabyte edition version of that drive. And I'm just like, it was the sensible thing to do at the time, but I also regret not buying it. So
isn't Crucial the one? They also supply RAM, and they're the ones that bailed out of the RAM market.
Yeah. Crucial are owned by one of the other, like Maxium or something, and they have said we're no longer doing consumer brand. They're only doing data center type, anything that's going into a server or a GPU or something like that. So yeah, fun. Anyway, we're not here to talk about AI and depressing SSD prices. I've bought a handheld.
Really? Which one?
I bought the ROG Ally.
The ROG Ally. What, is that the Xbox one?
No. Yes, but no.
No, yes?
So
no, but yes.
I decided that I was going to get a Steam Deck, and I was looking into various Steam Decks, and I had some friends who may or may not have been selling an old Steam Deck. But the more I looked into the Steam Deck, and I was set, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go all in. I'll get the 1 terabyte etched glass, get the super nice one, 2-week delivery. Yeah, I was going to get the really nice one. I'll treat myself, especially with the SSD prices. It's not like I can cheaply add some more SSD to it, so I might as well get it all built in. But then as I was looking at lots of YouTube channels, that kind of... Like, I've not been following this scene at all, so I wasn't aware of what was in this area. I literally only knew about the Steam Deck. But then I started seeing the Lenovo Legion, the ROG Ally, and whatever the MSI Claw, I think it is. Those are like the main capable devices. There's other ones like the GPD that are absurdly priced and can do... They're basically a beast gaming laptop in a tiny package. But I was kind of looking in the £500 range, roughly. And I will say, like, have you looked into these devices, any of the non-Steam Deck devices at all?
Not really, because I was quite early with the Steam Deck, so it hasn't really. I haven't really felt the need for an additional.
But have you even looked at seen reviews?
Oh yeah,
you're aware of them.
Yeah.
So I
am aware of them.
Yeah, so I found it incredibly confusing to know what I was looking at and what was current. I think potentially some of it might have been that I was looking literally the week as CES was happening, and I think maybe there was a new Legion coming out at the same time, so maybe there was literally brand new ones dropping at the same time as I was trying to do this research. But I have found it quite... They've not been very clear with what is the current stuff and what's the non-current stuff. So you've got the ROG... I don't know if it's ROG or ROG. I've heard people say it both. I'm probably going to say it both ways.
It's the ROG Ally.
Right, and here's the thing. I don't like that. I've got an ROG. My gaming laptop is an ROG. It's Republic of Gamers, so I'm going to say ROG. I've got an ROG laptop, so I was kind of leaning towards the ROG Ally. But then you've got the ROG Ally for £500, which has got the Z2 Go. And then I kept seeing the Ally X has got the Z2 Extreme chip, and the difference between them is massive. I think the Z2 Go is slightly better than the Steam Deck, but not massively. And then the Z2...
I think it's the same. It's the
is
same
it?
CPU
Maybe about
as
the
Steam,
same.
yeah.
And then the Z2 Extreme is not balls to the wall, but it's a really good, solid, performing chip. I was like, oh, right, okay, starting to understand. And then I realised... The Steam Deck, the Steam Deck and the handheld market has been around for a few years now. There's a pretty good second-hand market for these. So I was gearing up to get one of the Lenovo Legions. I was one click away in PayPal from ordering the Lenovo Legion with the Z2 Go chip. But in the back of my mind, I kept thinking about the Z2 chip. But the Z2 chip models were over $1,000, and it's way too much. But I felt like I wanted that because I know I'm not the best audience for these devices. I like to have, when I play games, you have to pick between fidelity and frame rates. But I want good looking, I want fidelity and frame rates at the same time, which is a bit greedy. And I felt like I wasn't going to get that with the Z2 Go. So I left that. I stood down my bank account for £550 for a brand new Lenovo Legion. And I just kept looking at the Lenovo, the one with the Switch style split screen. So the handles come off. And I still felt the brand new one was too expensive. And I think when I came to eBay, either the used ones weren't that many, or the used ones were still £700. So what I actually ended up buying was the ROG Ally. So it's not the X, but it's the one with the Z1 Extreme chip. Because for everything that I saw, the Z1 Extreme chip, even though it might be older than the Z2, it's a more powerful chip. I will say I am quite happy with the device. I'll just say the games that I've started with, I've got GTA 5, Cyberpunk, Assassin's Creed Origins, and there's two other games I did try early on, Horizon Forbidden West and American Truck Sim. Those are the main games that I'm kind of looking to use this device in the next sort of 6 months with. Probably not the best games, they're quite intensive games. I know most people are getting these games to do emulation or play older games that don't require much, much CPU or graphical power, but that's not me yet. But I have found that my brain is treating this device correctly. On my gaming laptop, I play, let's say I've got GTA 5, and they've just come out with the enhanced version, which has got like RTX, ray tracing, and like just higher quality textures. On my gaming laptop, I'm like, okay, give me high, give me ultra, give me whatever you can do. Let the fans blow as hard as they can. Just give me everything that gets me all the frames. And because I've got, I think one of the nice things about my laptop is because it is an AMD laptop, as opposed to an AMD desktop, it has two graphic cards. It's got the NVIDIA and it's also got the APU inside the CPU. So I can use the NVIDIA for, the general game stuff. And then I can use the APU from AMD to do like FSR frame generation, which works reasonably well. So it's like on my computer, I'm playing GTA 5 with 150 frames per second, and I'm like, what am I going to be like when I play it on this smaller device? I've messed about with some settings. Obviously, I've got textures on like low, but I've got a few other things set between high, very high. Things like tessellation, draw distance, 16x, anti-prosthetic thing, whatever. So I've set my graphic settings a mixture of very low and high quality, which seems a bit weird, but I can actually run GTA for the most part anywhere between 50 and 90 frames on this device in high performance mode. When I'm playing on battery, I can throw it into 15 watt mode and still get 50 to 60 frames per second, which is way more than playable. And my goodness, GTA 5 looks so much better on this device than on the original 360 when that came out. And obviously, that's true. The difference is that's running at 15 watts, whereas the Xbox 360, I think, must have been like 160 watts, 200 watts for the graphical power that it didn't have. So even though I like to play my games as nice looking as possible with as many frames as possible on my gaming laptop, I have actually come down to this device and I've accepted its limitations, and I've been okay with only seeing 50 frames per second. And I know that's absurd. I know some people will be like, I've got a gaming desktop that can't run those games at 50, and you're saying this little device is only running at 50 and you're saying that's acceptable. But like, think where I'm coming from. Like, my gaming laptop cost $2,000. My previous gaming PC cost $1,500. So like, I've treated myself quite nicely for the past 6 years in terms of like gaming performance. I'm not coming from a 3060 or a 2060. Like, I've had 2070 Ti's and Supers, things that can do quite a lot, and like 16 cores on the CPU. So like, I'm coming from very, very capable systems, but I haven't found the transition to be all that painful, at least when it comes to graphics. Now, here's where we come to the things I don't like about this device. I don't like the handheld form factor, which is just absurd, because that's why I bought it. I bought it to be a handheld gaming PC, but also I didn't. The reason I bought this is I've had a new job recently, and that lends me to being in a hotel multiple times a month. When I tried to take my gaming laptop away with me, it's got a massive power supply unit. It's like 300 watts, and it weighs more than a standard laptop does, just for the power supply. So I said, I'm not taking that. I'm going to run it off USB because it's got 100 watt power delivery on the USB. But when the laptop's running at 300 watts and I'm only getting 100 watts in, then the games are running on battery and I can only play for like an hour. So I think, and that was only playing Truck Sim, which isn't exactly, I say it's not demanding, it's not too demanding, but obviously you can push it. So after 2 trips with a gaming laptop and it just not really working for me, that's when I started to look into this. That's when I started looking into the Steam Deck and all the others. But I may have made a mistake getting the ROG Ally because it's just not very comfortable to hold. And not only that, it's got very little in the way of a comfortable grip on the back. The shoulder and trigger buttons are, I would say, very hard to use. And I do not think the joysticks being in the traditional Xbox pattern is a good idea. Have you got your Steam Deck with you?
No, I don't have it with me.
Oh, I thought I heard. Sorry, I thought I heard it with you for a second. On the Steam Deck, where are the joysticks?
They are just to the left and right. It's not like the Xbox 360.
They're at the top, and they're just next to either side of the screen, with the buttons and the D-pads further out on each side. We saw some friends yesterday, and they've got both the Steam Deck LCD and the Steam Deck OLED. So I said, before we arrived, I said, can you stick GTA 5 and can you stick Cyberpunk on there? Because those are two games that I know very well on the PC. I know very well actually on the handheld. So I thought that would be a good comparison of games that are going to be quite common. I tried both those games. I tried Power Wash Sim and I tried Desk Job, Aperture Desk Job, which is the sort of like the thing that kind of shows off how to do the whole thing. And I'm not going to lie, within 10 seconds of holding the Steam Deck, I knew that that was a better device. The layout of all of the buttons just worked. The shoulder grips, between the trigger, trying to work out how to describe it, the triggers are further back, but they're also further in. So like if you're holding the Steam Deck upright, the triggers are actually closer to the ground than the shoulder buttons are. And that made it very easy to either have your index and your middle fingers on each of the buttons, or, depending on the game, to move from the trigger to the button. Whereas on my device, you can barely feel the difference between them. The triggers are easy to get to, but the shoulders, they're just... It's not great.
What about the size? Because sometimes I feel like if I'm playing the Steam Deck a long time, it can get quite heavy on the hands.
Oh, that's hilarious, because the Steam Deck, both of them, are considerably noticeably lighter than the ROG Ally. I don't know how much, I don't know what the specs are. Like, could be 20, 30, 50 grams lighter. In a way, I would say that holding the Steam Deck, you can easily hold it with one hand, and it doesn't feel like you're going to drop it. My one, I'm currently...
Can do, but I wouldn't do it, though.
No, but your grip feels...
Yeah.
It feels secure in your grip.
Yeah,
because
you got a good grip on it.
The grip is bigger, so you actually have a better grip on it, and it is lighter. That might be because the CPU and the cooling, so there might be a reason for that. I've not actually opened this up yet. But mine, it feels dense, whereas a Steam Deck feels light. And I know people always say, oh, heavy, dense things feel more premium. Sure, but actually having something light in the hand is also quite nice. Because the layout of the buttons I just haven't gelled with it. I actually don't use it in handheld mode almost ever. I'll typically prop it on the desk on like a phone stand or something. And I've actually bought one of those 8-bit DOE USB controllers, and I actually use that. And that's actually for two reasons, because I quite often, when I'm away for work, I'll plug it into the TV, and obviously I'm not going to use the handheld controller at that point. So that obviously makes a bit more sense. Plug the device into a telly, sit further back with the controller. But the fact that I would rather stick it on the desk, on a little stand, and then use like an Xbox controller or a PlayStation controller or anything else other than its own input is just... It just feels like I'm completely defeating the purpose of the device.
Yeah, that's not good. I could sit on a sofa for hours playing my Steam
The
Deck.
one place it does work is when I'm in bed, because then you can kind of like lift your knees up and then you can kind of rest your arms and everything, use your legs to help you. So that works okay.
But I don't need to put my knees up. I never need to put my knees up to play my Steam
But if
Deck.
I was just holding it with my, by locking my elbows in place, because of its weight, and not just the weight, but because you really have to, I feel like I have to like adjust my grip to go between like the A, B, X, Y buttons and the joystick. Like my right hand, when I'm using the joystick, is not holding the device. My left hand is holding the device, and it is essentially propped against my right hand, and that gets tiring quite quickly. And do you know something? I suspect that is why the Ally X Box Edition... And that's the other thing. The Ally X and the Ally X Xbox Edition are not the same. That's another one where I got confused, because the Ally X is like the Z2 Extreme, but there's a non-Z2 Extreme Xbox version. It's all very weird. But the Xbox version of this has the Xbox-style handles that come out the back. It's got much larger grip. And I suspect that is to compensate for this current model where there is basically no grip at all. I would say the grip is half the height of what the Steam Deck has, just for context.
I've actually tried the Xbox One. I went to Curry's PC World, and they had it, surprisingly. It was only like a week after it came out. And it did feel good on the hands in terms of the triggers and handling. But I don't really have anything else to compare to the Steam Deck. It felt okay to me.
I think I've only seen pictures of the Lenovo one, the Legion, and that's a bit more bulbous, and that kind of reminds me of when the PlayStation 5 DualSense came out, and it was like, oh, it's so much bigger than the the DualShock 4 or whatever. And I was just like, yeah, but they weren't comfortable, and the DualShock 5 is a comfortable controller, even if it looks really weird. Sometimes you just need things to look weird to actually feel good in the hand. So I suppose a couple final things. Obviously, compared to the Steam Deck, this has got a higher refresh screen, a higher display. I think it's 1080p, 120Hz, but it's only LCD as opposed to OLED. And I will say, I think other people have said this as well, the speakers are really good on this device. Way better than the Steam Deck in the 2 games that I tried. It's good volume. It's good sounding volume. The sort of it sounds very wide, the stereo separation, when you have it in, like, if you have it in handheld mode and you're holding it in front of your face, it like the speakers are so far apart, it does feel like they're coming from the left and right. So that does work really well. So games, like I said, I'm mostly playing games that are probably not the best to try on this device. Horizon Forbidden West, I would not use this device to play this. I bought it on PC because it's a pretty game. I might as well play it on a good computer. Starfield, I think it took me 2 minutes to realise this isn't going to work, and I just uninstalled it entirely. Fallout 4 did run, but my save files got mods in it, so it crashed after like 30 seconds every time because there was something missing. But it did feel like it could probably run, and I think I might have Skyrim installed. I do. I have Skyrim installed, so maybe I'll give that a try at some point. But yeah, I think I think for me with the games on this thing, I feel like I'm trying to use like GTA 5. The reason I'm playing GTA 5 on this is that I'm trying to use that game as a game that I know, so I don't have to learn a game, and I want to use that game as a way to learn this device. And that's where I found things like, oh, this right joystick just feels wrong. It feels awkward to get to. Like drive-by shooting in GTA 5 just feels very difficult. Like trying to drive and do the drive-by shooting, it just doesn't feel... It feels like you're trying to get both of your feet on the brake pedal, but then your feet are also hitting the clutch and the accelerator at the same time. That's sort of... It just feels so cramped, and it doesn't feel like I'm pressing the buttons that I mean to. But performance-wise, after a bit of playing around, I do find that so like Cyberpunk runs really well. Like it's got its own Steam Deck profile, which is super helpful. I have found games to be running pretty well given the low power of the device, so that's been quite nice.
Well, going back to what you said earlier, you did try Grand Theft Auto Cyberpunk on the Steam Deck. Now compared to your ROG Li, it's gonna be your handheld is gonna be a lot better.
Yeah, I would say both of them looked... I didn't play with the settings on the Steam Deck because that wasn't my device, it wasn't my game. So I just played it as it was, how it looked. And to my eye, I think the looks were similar. So like reflections, resolution, things like that. But the frame rate for GTA 5 was only 30 frames, whereas on mine, I'm talking 50 to 60. Now, actually, that is a slight lie. They can't look the same because actually I think that was the legacy version of GTA 5 on the Steam Deck, whereas I've got the enhanced with the... Not that I've got it on this, but it still has better like reflections and lighting compared to the legacy. And that's something that I assumed wrongly, that the legacy version of GTA 5 and I've got Skyrim original and I've got Skyrim Anniversary, the enhanced. I assumed that the older versions would probably run better, but I've actually found that the newer versions actually run better because more optimization or whatever it is, and they've actually just run better, more consistently on the device than the older versions that I thought might be a bit more kinder to the system. So, but I think I would describe it as the Steam Deck is equivalent in frame rate to the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4, and the ROG Ally is equivalent to playing the same, keep everything the same in terms of graphical power and frame and resolution, but you've got more frames. And then obviously but then you've also got the freedom to say, actually, I'll have 30 frames, but more fidelity in this game. So let's say like Stardew Valley. Well, no, I'm trying to think of a game, maybe something like Balatro or Baldur's Gate, something that doesn't have too much action where you don't need to go above 30 frames, but there's a lot of static stuff, so actually having everything look the prettiest they can could be a benefit. So that's sort of how I would describe it. It's like, this is like having an Xbox Series or a PS5, whereas a Steam Deck is like having the PS4 or a Xbox One. So
the thing that Steam Deck has, what it's having to rely on now is with modern games, is it won't be able to play the latest stuff, but you also got stuff like what people have been, like the community putting together, like frame gen, lossless scaling. So, but in terms of actual raw performance from the two handhelds, yeah, I think your one would wipe out the Steam Deck quite comfortably.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it feels rude to compare them because obviously this is an x86 CPU, so it can run Windows. The Steam Deck is a completely proprietary CPU, isn't it? It's almost like a gaming console itself. Is that right? Is it an x86 CPU or is it something completely different architecture-wise? If you even know, I'm not sure.
I don't know, so I'm trying to look it up for you, but I don't.
And obviously
that goes on to my next question, really.
Yeah.
Like, what operating system are you running?
So I have dual booted Windows 11 and Bytes, and let me tell you, I never use Windows. I think I've got Stardew Valley installed on Windows that was literally the first game I installed to the system because it took 10 seconds to download. And I believe, but I've not booted recently to have a look, I think I've got Forza Horizon 4 on that side, but the screen is too small, I think, to get through the login, so I've not actually played it. So at this point, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to keep the Windows partition, because I never use it. I might actually just wipe it and then just claim that storage back for games on the Bytes side.
But you're not worried about games that have anti-cheat?
I don't play any. The only game I play that has anti-cheat is GTA Online, and I don't play that anymore. I've not been on GTA Online for a long time. The thing is, when I use this device, I'm going to be in hotels. I'm not going to have a good enough connection to play online, so that's not my concern at all. One thing that is my concern, it is a pain in the arse to use Bytes and SteamOS. It's not, I would say it's not for the faint of heart. And maybe this is because I'm using Bytes, not the actual official SteamOS. I have a lot of crashes, way more than I would see on Windows.
Oh no, there's no crashes on Steam Deck.
No, and I believe you. Like, I wonder if I bought the Legion Go S with the official Steam on it, I reckon the games would probably run better, or not run better, but run more consistently. You know, there'd be more. Oh, there's a word for it, but it's escaping my mind. But this Bytes is obviously a community-built copy of SteamOS. It's not the official thing. I think there is an official Proton for this CPU, but that's one of those things where it's like it feels like Proton is built for the Steam Deck and for that CPU and architecture. And whilst it works for any Linux, it might not work quite as well. There might be some translation things that just don't work the same. So, like GTA 5 is one of those games where in a week I might launch it 10 times and one or two of those launches will just never launch. Either it will crash to desktop or it will just sit there. And I think, and the other thing is it might be more consistently naff with games that have like GTA or Cyberpunk, where they have that pre-launcher. So you've got the Rockstar launcher, the Cyberpunk launcher. Skyrim has its own little launcher which just was off screen the first time I launched it, so it just didn't show for me because all of these games think it's a Windows PC, but it's not. And there has been a couple of times where I thought maybe I should throw in the towel with Bytes and just take the small performance hit with Windows 11, have the games always run, but just suffer the 5 or 10 frames per second. I think it has been better lately, and I think it might be GTA Legacy was more the issue than GTA 5 Enhanced, but I would not say this has been necessarily the easiest gaming experience sometimes it's been so grating that I've just not played any games for like an hour because I'm waiting for things to load. And that's the other thing, that loading is not quick. GTA 5 can take 10, I don't want to say 10 minutes. If I'm running on battery power, from deciding to play GTA 5 to controlling a player character, I can go from 99% battery to 86 in the amount of time and energy it takes for the game to load.
But that's another question. What's the battery life like?
Not great, I would say. Now, I can get... When I say not great in that sense, in the fact that you lose so much waiting for games to load. So actually, completely changing things, like the Switch. I remember playing the Switch, and I never had any sort of battery anxiety. Like, I knew launching Mario Kart or launching Animal Crossing took so long, but it never felt like it was draining the battery every time you were waiting for the game to load to get in. Whereas this device, maybe it just feels like the first 15% just go the quickest, because I can get something like close to 2 hours in GTA 5 under the 15 watt mode if I remember to. That's the other thing, like remembering to switch modes between power being plugged in and not being plugged in. I think I need to investigate custom TDPs per game and just dial them in so that they're always running at the best performance per watt thing. But
yeah,
I was going to say, is that a thing? I feel like that should be a thing.
That is a thing on the Steam Deck. You got a plugin called Share Deck where other users have said, run this at this TDP for the best. You can get this 30 frames. If you run it at 30 frames with this TDP, you can get 3 hours of battery life, this and that.
I think even sitting on desktop, I think 2 to 2.5 hours is the most that this device can do. However, it is very important at this point to say this is not a stock ROG Ally. So if you're listening to this and thinking, that doesn't sound so bad, that guy's just being an idiot and expecting too much of a battery-driven device, and I probably am. This device has had a battery and SSD upgrade done by a previous owner. So this actually has a 1TB SSD and a 65 watt hour battery instead of a 40 watt hour battery. I could not imagine how horrible this device would be to use on the standard battery. If I'm getting let's say 1 hour 40 out of GTA 5 on 60 watt hours, that means GTA 5 on the 40 watt hour battery, you're going to be getting just a shade over 1 hour, not including waiting. You've got to load the game up, and then you've got to make sure you pause and save the game before the device dies. I think this is a good device for what it is, and I think it was a really good idea for them in the next model after this to put the 80 watt hour battery in. So do you know what's in the Steam Deck?
Good question. I know the LCD, it's not great. But
again, the LCD was the very first of these, so that's not surprising. Okay, so Steam Deck OLED has a 50 watt hour battery, but I suppose because it's a lower resolution, it's like 900p, I think. It's a lower 800p, 90 frames, so it's a performance-wise, it's a worse screen, but that can obviously be to its benefit. And the max wattage, is it 15, or can you go higher on power?
15.
Okay, so it's 15 watt in total, so that 50 watt hour will feel better, I think.
That's better than so you're referencing the OLED.
I am, yes.
The LCD,
yeah.
The LCD battery is worse than that. So you if maxed out GTA 5, you're probably going to get at least an hour.
Yeah. Well, no, if you max it out, if you go into 25 watt, I think after you've loaded in and used that 15%, you're looking at about 40 minutes at 25 watts. So I'm saying 1.5 hours at 15 watts.
So what you do is cut down the TDP in the loading stage as much as possible, and then when you get in game, and then that's the thing. With these handhelds, you're gonna need either it's not gonna be an issue for you because you said you're gonna mostly use in hotels.
Yes, and
so
I
am just gonna plug it in
there. Yes.
Yeah, and for me, I've got a battery pack, and I can just connect that when needed. So you definitely need like a battery, some sort of.
Well, that's hard for me because I need 60 watts, I think, to play and charge. If I use a 30-watt charger, it doesn't recognize it as being plugged into power. So it actually thinks it's on battery and it just drains slower. So I think maybe 40 to 50 watts or something, but I've got 30 and I've got 60, so...
But can't you turn it off and then let it charge?
No, as in if I'm... The last time I went to the hotel, I plugged a 30-watt charger in whilst I was playing it, and whilst I was playing GTA 5, and I was like, why is the time still going down? And then I plugged my work's laptop charger in, which is a 60-watt charger. Then it went, like, the screen brightened up and everything was like, oh yeah, you're plugged into power now. I was like, right, okay. So 30-watt, whilst it will charge the battery, it's better to be off when charging as opposed to using when charging, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's the same with the Steam Deck. It won't go down. It will actually charge it.
No, it was going down. I got down to about 10 or 20%, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to have to turn this off soon." So, and I think that's because if you're feeding 30 watts in, the whole system is obviously using 30 watts because that 15 watt, 25 watt, that I think is only the CPU power. It's not the GPU, because when you've got that, I've got all the sats across the top. And I put it into 15 watt mode, but it still pulls like 20 watts or something on battery power. So obviously that, when you say 15 watts, that's just how much power is going to the CPU, not how much the system is actually using. So you're in 15 watt mode, but you still need a 20 watt charger to power the system, and you'll need a 30 watt charger to power and charge, or a 40 watt charger, or whatever the actual numbers are. Like you need double, like 30 to play, and a second 30, as in 60 watt in total, to actually charge it alongside the playing. So, but these are things I'm slowly figuring out. I think it comes with the 65 watt charger, but I leave that in the living room to use there. And then when I'm at work, I've got a million USB-C chargers, so I just use what I've got there. Last week, I was trying to get on the ferry. I tried to plug it into the van's USB output, but that must have been like 10 watts, so it was just doing absolutely nothing. Just... Yeah, so...
one thing you could do, like, obviously you won't want to do this when you're in your hotel, but maybe if you're at home. Have you ever thought about streaming? So streaming from your laptop. I've thought about
streaming in both directions. So, yeah, when I'm at home, this would make more sense if I liked the handheld form factor, that I could go sit on the living room and play a game from the laptop with higher frames and it would look nicer. But like I said, I just don't like the way it looks when I use the handheld mode. But the other thing I've thought about doing, and this might sound completely bizarre, but you have to realise that I'm in my mid-30s and I'm starting to realise, like, my eyes aren't the best things, and this is only a 7-inch screen. I'm trying to work out a way of using my laptop screen for this device, if that makes sense, like using a HDMI capture card or Steam in-house streaming from the device to a laptop. Obviously, I'm in a hotel room, so I can't quite do that without taking my own router. But my ideal thing would be have this device do all the processing and then have the display output on my 13-inch laptop where I can actually see things properly. And then I can have that on my lap by the bed with the controller and just have this plugged in by the wall or something like that. Or even like when I'm in bed at home, I can have this plugged in charging, and then I could just take my little MacBook, use Steam in-home streaming from this device to my MacBook, and then just do a bit, some light gaming before bed instead of having to turn on the whole gaming laptop.
So on the Steam Deck, there's an app, and on Windows called Moonlight.
Yes, I used to have that on my old desktop gaming computer.
I've heard pretty good things about that. It might be worth giving that.
Yeah, I think the thing about streaming is in the hotel room, obviously you have no network. So I would have to take my own Wi-Fi router for this and my MacBook to plug into for the Steam home streaming to work. And my HDMI capture card just doesn't recognise the handheld, so the streaming might be the only option I've got.
Have you got like I was going to say like Amazon Luna, or do you have an Amazon Prime membership?
I do, and again, so I see you keep talking about Luna, and I did jump into Luna about a week or two ago just to have a look, because the last time I logged into Luna, it was brand new and there wasn't much on it. actually, I logged into it and I fired up a few like party games, things like Jackbox Party. Again, I'm not going to say no, I won't use those things. The problem I have is that depending on where I am, if I'm using hotel Wi-Fi or I'm tethering from my phone, it's all going to depend on what the game is, whether that's going to work well or not.
Yeah, that's true. They do have Skyrim, Fallout 4, all
Yeah,
of the
but
Fallouts.
the last thing you want to do is to like partially disconnect while you're fighting a bear, and then you reconnect and you've just been mauled to death. So
The thing I like, I do like, I know like streaming, it's not as good as the actual real thing, but with a Steam Deck or any handheld, you're saving a lot of battery life.
yes,
You can limit the TDP down to what I can get it down to like five TDP.
I've got a few things that I still need to do with this device they just feel quite new to me. So like the last time I did any kind of broadband internet-based streaming was Xbox Cloud, and that was back when I had home broadband, but obviously now I have 5G broadband, so I've never bothered to try that because my expectation is there will be more latency than is good for a game. But maybe the systems have improved since 2021 and maybe that's less of an issue. So that's on my list of something to try.
Yeah, you should definitely try as well GeForce Now. There's an official Steam app for it. You just need to download it from the website, so it should work with Bytes. And there's like a free tier.
Okay.
You have to wait a while.
Yeah, that's the one we got to queue up and you get like 10 hours a month or something, isn't it?
Well, no, you get, I don't know about
you used
how
to.
many hours.
I think a long time ago, you get like 10 hours a month or something. Like there were different things. So
I know that you just get an hour. So what I normally do is like I start playing for an hour and then it tells you it's like you've got 15 minutes left. And I'm like, okay, I'll quit, come out of the game, reset, and then I queue up for a little bit and then play for another hour.
It's kind of like Zoom where you get 40-minute meetings and you can have as many meetings as you like, but they're just all 40 minutes long. Now, I have one question for you. There's something that I haven't really done ever. Well, I've dabbled in it a little bit, but not massively. And I know it's something you do on your Steam Deck quite a lot.
I know what you're going to talk about.
Emulation.
That was going to be my next question.
I have done nothing with emulation, and I'm actually coming to you and saying, what should I try?
So what you should try now is definitely PS2 emulation. That's really gone really far now. There's it's really good. The PCX2. That emulator's quite good now, where it will automatically download patches, widescreen patches for your games. You don't have to do anything. You just basically load up the ROM and it will just apply a widescreen patch. So it'll be 16:9 instead of 4:3. If that's what you want, you can disable that. But and then you can upscale as well. You could probably upscale to 1080p. Look nice on your screen.
Yeah, because I've got I know it's not quite up resolution, but I've got FSR 3.0 on this as well, so it's quite good. It's got quite relatively modern frame and resolution scaling on here, which they do work quite well.
I would try Nintendo Switch emulation. The emulator that you want to use now is called Eden. That's the new emulator that's getting regular updates every week. Well, every few weeks. And that's just a fork of Yuzu, if you remember Yuzu. So that's pretty good. Some of the heavy stuff, you've got RPCS3. That's quite heavy. That's PS3 emulation, but that will be quite heavy. Your battery will probably just drain very, very quickly with that. And then you've got Shad PS4. So that's a very early PS4 emulator, but it's pretty much the Bloodborne emulator. So it's just trying to get Bloodborne working on PC because Sony won't do it. So you can play Bloodborne all the way through, I think, now. And then there's the obvious ones, like you could play Dolphin for Wii, GameCube, and then there's for 3DS, I think there's a thing called Lime emulator you can use for 3DS.
I suppose that's the thing. If I go into desktop mode, I'm sure there is actually already something built in.
The thing is, what I recommend if you've got Bytes, is probably install something like EmuDeck, which will
this Bazaar store.
Basically, yeah, you might have EmuDeck on there, and that will just basically it will download all the emulators for you except for Nintendo Switch. You have to do that manually and add it in yourself. But it will download all the most. Oh, and Xbox 360 would be Xenia.
Yeah,
and then
I've got a version of Xenia on my NAS somewhere. Quite an old one. But
Yeah, well, you want the latest version. You don't want an outdated version.
well, didn't they do something? I don't know.
Yeah, with the sound. Yeah, that was. Yeah, we did talk about that, which is quite fun. But yeah, I think Steam Deck can pretty much handle fairly well Switch. Like, you're not gonna get any improvement over the Switch, but it'll basically give you like what the Switch is doing, like 720p 30 frames per second. You might be able to add like mods that unlock the frame rate, stuff like that, or do different things. But generally, it's pretty good. The Switch emulation is pretty good on the Steam Deck. I think that's why Nintendo went after the guys creating the emulator as well. It was like, well, wait a minute, we've got a competitor in the Steam Deck and it's playing our games on a handheld. Doesn't look very good. But yeah, it would definitely do fairly well, I would think. Depends what you want to do with it, really. It's like you could basically get your Switch carts, dump them on your laptop, and then take those dumps and put them onto your ROG.
You might have to cut that out of the YouTube version.
Why?
Don't they?
There's nothing. It's all right backing up your own.
Right, okay. I thought some people have been gone after for going into the details.
I wouldn't think so. You're basically it's like getting a DVD and ripping the DVD. Technically, it is yours, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's only if you put it online and share it with other people that's when it becomes dodgy.
That is true. Someone should tell Nintendo and Sony that piracy. The legality of piracy comes with distribution. That's where it becomes illegal. So says the law. But that's not how they try to portray it.
But yeah, the Steam Deck is pretty much a PS2 Switch emulator beast. But yeah, your ROG Ally should be pretty good with emulation. But it depends on, like, do you want like a front end kind of thing where it basically stores? So I have Emu Deck, and then I got a thing called Emu Station, and then I go into Emu Station, and it just basically
load your game, and then go to the other one to actually play it.
Yeah, it has pictures and stuff, like little videos. It tells you information. Yeah, stuff like that. So you can have like but then some people like it on the front end of the Steam Deck, Steam OS.
Yeah.
So you can have add cover art and stuff like that.
So either have it as a card that launches directly, or go into your own little store to launch it. I get it.
Yeah. And then the cool thing with that is, like, you can also use lossless scaling with the emulation. So if it's not quite hitting the frames, you can also add that. But then some games, they kind of look pixelated a little bit.
Well,
so
yeah, because obviously they're designed for CRT, aren't they? In that whole art form that doesn't work, doesn't translate well to LCD screens. But that's fine.
But yeah,
so I will say, I as much as I do like the device, but I do.
It doesn't sound like it. Well, does Jen like it?
Jen hasn't
your wife like
really used it that much. She just kind of rolled her eyes when I.
Oh, hold on. Here's a good question. Why didn't you choose a Nintendo Switch 2?
Because that's a completely different device.
And what's wrong with your Switch?
There's nothing wrong with my Switch. It just doesn't play the games that I want to play. But yeah, that's just not a device that I'm going to take with me to the hotel. Now, there's a few other things I want to say. Is like, I live on a boat, so I potentially occasionally live off grid. Like, at the moment, I'm plugged into Shoreline Power, so I've got unlimited power. I've got unlimited power budget, so I can run not a full gaming rig, because if I did that, I'd trip the whole system because they use so much energy. But my laptop is 300 watts when it's running full tilt. When we take the boat out for a trip and we're gone for a week, I can't play games because that's 300 watts, and that would deplete the batteries in like 2 or 3 hours, which is not ideal. This device is 30 watts plugged in, or 15 watts not plugged in. I could play this in the evening till the battery runs out. Then the next day, I could plug it into my EcoFlow with its 160 watts of solar, and then it will take all day to charge, but then I've got another 2 hours to play in the evening. So that's one other place where actually this device is perfect for me. I can even, if I wanted to play Skyrim with keyboard and mouse, I could bring it into my desk, plug it into my USB-C dock, go into the desktop mode or whatever, and just use like the keyboard and mouse for like first-person shooter games. So it's really good for me in that sense. So I like the device in terms of the performance and the experience that it gives me. I just don't like the decisions that they made for the grips, the triggers, and the controller layout. I have two things. One is eventually I'm probably going to go to one of the Lenovo devices. I like the idea of the device that's got the controllers that kind of come off the side for two reasons. One, when I want to put the screen on a stand and sit a bit further away, I don't have to bring a second controller because that device, I can use the same controllers that's built in, similar to how the Joy-Cons come off of the Switch. So I can use that for that. Also, that's got a slightly larger screen. I think my perfect device, and maybe someone's made this, but it's not a massive company and I've just not seen it. But if this device existed as, say, like a Fire Stick or an Apple TV, and all I did is I go to a hotel, I plug it into power, I plug it into HDMI, and then I can play it on any other screen. It could be the TV on the wall, it could be a work laptop or my personal laptop via Steam streaming or some, HDMI capture card. So I've just got this little device that does all the processing, but some other screen that's not limited by the device for actually viewing on. That would almost be better for me because a 7-inch screen is a little bit too small because most games are just not designed to be on a screen this small. Like, do you find that? Like, with you, like, you wear glasses. Do you find the screen?
What, you think I can't see? How dare you?
But what I mean is, like, I don't have to wear glasses to see, and I find the screen a little bit too small. Like, do you find the screen to be a bit too small in games that just aren't expecting this screen size?
No, I think it's the same. I think it is 7-inch Steam Deck as well, and I don't find it too small. Like I played Persona 4 Golden on a PS Vita, and that had a tiny screen. It's a tiny little
in GTA 5, I had to go in and I had to go adjust some of the accessibility features to make things on the screen bigger so that I could see them. And that's one of those things. Like, if I was 20, I probably wouldn't need to do that, but I'm not 20, so I kind of have to. I'm trying not to say what I need is an ultralight gaming laptop because they cost a lot of money. Like, I genuinely, while I was researching these devices, I thought, would it be better for me to get a mid-range 14-inch USB-C powered laptop? But they're like £1,400. So it's like, no, that's not the right device for me. But also it kind of is, if that makes sense. It's like those gaming laptops, they're too expensive. And in a way, they're too powerful. Like, if this chipset existed in a 12-inch, a 13-inch laptop, maybe that would be better. Like, I keep thinking maybe I'll get like a USB-C monitor, like an external monitor or something. But I'm also trying not to, like I said, like, I'm traveling for work. I don't want to take too much stuff because I'm only playing this stuff like 1 or 2 hours in an evening. So it's like, if I was going away for a whole week and I was playing 4 hours every night, then maybe the monitor would make sense, but it doesn't quite for me. So it's just like, this device, I'm not using this device the way it's meant to be used, and I'm trying to shoehorn it into a slightly different use case with my own particular peculiarities, where I feel like I am more a keyboard and mouse first over controller. And there are games where I absolutely use a controller, but when I try to use this controller, it just feels so different to a standard controller. So it's just, maybe ask me in 6 months to a year, I might feel differently once I've gotten used to things. But at the moment, like, the adjustment period is still ongoing, and I've had this for about 6 weeks.
Let me ask you this. So, like, if you're playing a game, for me, like, I've played recently, like, Final Fantasy Rebirth. I played it all through the Steam Deck, only using the Steam Deck. The whole game was like 121 hours. Now, when I look back in my memory, kind of don't picture the Steam Deck, me playing the Steam Deck with it. I just kind of You
just remember the game.
Just remember the game. And I don't know if that's kind of weird, but for me, like, yes, graphics do matter, but...
Sounds like you were immersed.
Yes, I was, yes.
Yeah, that's good. So here's the test. GTA 5 was my game for a game that I didn't have to learn, a game that I knew, so I could use that game to learn the device. My next game is Assassin's Creed Origins, and that is a game that I've never played before, and I've started on the Steam Deck, and my aim is to only play it on the Steam Deck. And I'll see how far I get, if I give up, or whatever. Maybe ask me in 6 months how I get on with Assassin's Creed Origin.
On the Steam Deck?
Yeah, on my ROG Ally, on the handheld.
Oh, sorry. When you said... I was getting confused.
Oh, sorry. This is one of those things. It runs SteamOS, and...
Yeah. I was like, what?
Like, I'm amazed it's taken me this long to mess it up. I'm surprised I didn't do that earlier. So
To be honest, I'm not sure, but I think it's on Amazon Luna for like you can play it for free. That game.
I just paid £8 for it on Steam sale.
Oh really? Well, I think I think it's on.
I will say it actually runs pretty well on here, like because it's like a 2018 game. I think it does
2017. Yeah,
I had to tweak 2 settings and it runs pretty well. So I'm quite happy with the performance on the device.
but yeah. Last question then. Would you? It doesn't sound like you've actually used or thought about using lossless scaling. But if there was a game that, say, like GTA 6 comes out, right, and eventually comes out on PC, on Steam, and your handheld is not reaching the frame rates, would you use lossless scaling to, get to like 60 at least? Or 30?
My preference has been to use frame generation over resolution scaling. That seems to make my eyes the most pleased, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
When I have tried both on this device and on my gaming laptop, and I think I have preferred frame generation every time. I would almost take the hit on real frames and then use frame generation to get the last 10 or 20 back up to 60.
It won't look as good.
Well, it will look as good because it's running 1080p native just at 40 frames. And I will say, GTA 5 Legacy was running at 40 frames, and I was like, this is surprisingly good. I couldn't believe that I was accepting 40 frames per second. If I can play GTA 6 at native resolution on the lowest graphical settings, but at native resolution, and get 30 to 40 frames, and then use frame generation to get 50 to 60, I think I'll be okay.
That was the thing, because like every game before then was on the gaming consoles, it was either 30 frames per second or 60. But then when Steam Deck came along, it's like, well, it's not really reaching 60, and then everyone was like, well, you can just put it to 40, and it's still acceptable. It's better than 30.
Yes, and do you know something? I don't think games need to be played at 60. I think 40 is the minimum playable resolution, if it is a stable 40. Like 30, I don't like. Every time I put a game into resolution mode and it's 30 frames, I do not like it, cannot like it. But 40 is my minimum. And any time I play a game that is at 40, I've been quite happy with it. 60 is nice. Obviously it is. And anything higher is brilliant. But 40 is my minimum. So I'm actually a little bit upset that my TV can't do VRR, so that I can do the 40. There are some PlayStation 5 games that allow you to do high resolution, essentially 4K at 40 frames. And I'm like, I think I would be okay with that, so long as the 40 frames is consistent. So if it's 40, 40, 40, 40, that's fine. If it's 40, 40, 38, 40, 40, 38, 40, that's a problem.
One last question, then. How much did you actually spend on this device?
Right, so bear in mind that I bought this partway through the RAM and GPU crisis. So obviously,
Ramageddon?
Ramageddon.
There we go. Sorry.
So
go on.
and it's like, it's not just literal RAM sticks are going up, but everything is going up because someone probably would have bought this device and taken the 1 terabyte SSD and then sold it for almost as much as I paid for this. This is the Asus ROG Ally Z1 Extreme with a 1 terabyte instead of a 512 gig SSD and a improved battery. And it was listing on eBay. This was buy it now, it wasn't an auction. So it was buy it now at £420. Bear in mind, I could have gone to Currys and bought a brand new Legion Go S, I think with a terabyte. But I will be honest, Currys did not have all the technical specs. And this was another problem I had. Some devices have multiple specs. Not all websites I could buy them from were giving you all the specs. So I was like, am I going to get 512 gig SSD or a terabyte? Because I need a terabyte. But it's eBay, so eBay always has vouchers. So I got 62 quid off that. So I actually paid £363 shipped. for a device that I think retails for about £600 or £700 brand new. Don't quote me on the brand new price, but I think it's about that sort of price, around that sort of price. Because if the base model is about 500, I think it's 5 to 550 at the moment for the Z2 Go chips, and then like 700 for the Z2 Extreme, and then the Lenovo. If you put the 1TB, or I think there might be a 2TB 32 gig version, that's like £1,200. And I'm not going to lie, I think I might go for that model at some point in the next year or two.
What if they come out with a Steam Deck 2?
I mean, Steam have been making noises that make me think they're not going to, and then what's happening with the Steam Frame also makes me think they're not going to do a Steam 2. Steam Frame and the Steam Machine. That also makes me think they're not going to do a Steam Deck 2 for a little while. So I'm not worried about that. But I will say, if there was a Steam Deck 2 with a Z2 Extreme chip or equivalent, I think I might insta-buy that, because it is the best form factor with the best chip. I think I would prefer to have the performance and make my own accommodations than to have the better ergonomics but have only 30 frames, because like, I don't want to sound elitist, but I just can't go back to 30 frames per second in video games. Like, I have a PlayStation 5, I have a good gaming PC, I'm beyond 30 frames. I just can't go back. When I played GTA 5 on the Steam Deck, it didn't feel good at 30. It was a stable 30, like it was really stable, but 30 frames per second, it just doesn't feel good.
No, it won't. And what you will need to do is you would need to lower the settings to get higher frame rate. That's the thing. Like, you know, when you game with a Steam Deck, it's not going to be the most powerful.
No, and I think that's good. I think, like, hats off to Valve. Like, the Steam Deck is incredible. These devices wouldn't exist without it, and especially Bytes and SteamOS. Like, being able to run games without the Windows backend system just makes them run better. I feel like running games on SteamOS versus Windows 11, it's not about getting 1 or 2 extra frames. It's about not having the dips in frames that come from when Copilot does some random shit in the background. I am seriously considering CachyOS or Bytes for my gaming laptop, because I don't need Windows 11 for my home operating system. I have a MacBook Air for general use computing. I have a work device for Windows. And I think, even if I dual boot it, I think there are some games that might just not run better. I think on higher end hardware like my gaming laptop, the operating system doesn't give you any performance benefits, but what it does give you is consistent performance. So the games will stay at 60 frames. They're not going to drop a few frames because there's some Windows telemetry going on or something in the background. So that's something that I might do, like, way off in the future. Like, give me 6 months to a year to kind of get some. Like, at that point, I'm going to need massive SSDs, because one thing you can't do is share a partition between Windows and Bytes. I initially, when I set this device up, I wanted to do 250 gig for Windows, 250 gig for Bytes, and then 500 gig as shared, so that I could launch a game on both, but only have it installed once. But Bytes doesn't like NTFS formatting, and Windows has no idea what ext4 is at all. So at the moment, I don't think you can have a game on an external partition that runs in both operating systems. You have to install it on each operating system's own partitions. So that's kind of a little bit of a shame, and that's where I need these massive, like, I literally need 3 2TB SSDs at this point now, between the PlayStation, my laptop, and the ROG Ally. And my voice is going because I've got a cold, so I really need to end this now. Can you wrap it up? Because I can't talk anymore.
What I just very, very quickly say is, be careful installing Bytes on your laptop, because it's not necessarily just going to work the way you think it will.
And that's where CachyOS, I think, is a something someone recommended to me. CachyOS instead, that might work better.
Yeah, well, give it a try, but don't rush into it, because you don't want it to all fail when you can't play any games on your laptop. But anyway, it sounds like in summary, it sounds that you enjoy the device, but not actually using it as a handheld, but mainly just plugging it into a TV and having the ability to plug in a mouse and keyboard, use it as a PC when you need to, and also have it there at night and charge it and use it for a few hours.
I'll tell you what, one thing that would be really funny, because it can run Windows, is, and I don't think I can, I think the screen is too small for this, I could technically edit this podcast on it, but I just
Oh yeah, definitely.
but I can't see anything. It's everything is just way too small on a 7-inch screen. All the little icons.
You need USB-C to.
I would at that point, but it's absolutely technically possible, which is absurd.
You know what you should do. You should, if you ever get like a Steam Deck 2 and it had like trackpads, you should edit the podcast using the trackpads.
I use like a jog wheel and everything, so I already try not to use the keyboard and mouse. But yeah. Oh, didn't mention that. No, this doesn't have any trackpads on it. Yours has got the 2 on either side. The Legion has got this tiny little like nubbin. This has got nothing. It's got the touchscreen. The touchscreen is basically useless. So I know I keep going on, but one thing I hate about Bytes is its keyboard support. Anytime that keyboard comes up, it is so awkward to use. You can't see what you're typing. It feels I think that's the time when I feel like I'm going to throw the thing in the bin and go back to Windows, because the Windows keyboard is better about moving what you're typing into an area where you can see it, but Bytes isn't as good.
Have a look at Decky plugin. That has loads of, basically it's this a community who've created like solutions where Valve has not really done, and you could just install plugins and try it out, and they have like keyboard solutions for that. Yeah, that is annoying, but definitely it should work. Yeah, on Bytes, Decky plugin, get that installed. There's one on there where you can just install art. It basically just, if you've got like a non-Steam game or something, you can just add art very quickly. There's other settings, other cool stuff you can do on it, like Share Deck, where it tells you. And okay, very quickly, one thing that is really, really annoying is Valve. At first, when I first got the Steam Deck, I was like, this is great, because they got unverified, kind of verified, and verified. And most of the games now, it's like they're putting out, it's like, oh yeah, this is verified, and then you turn it on and it runs at like 20 frames per second. You're like, how in the hell is this verified? This can barely run. It's not playable. This is not verified. And that's where it is a bit falling short now, where Valve are marking stuff as verified, and you're like, this is just ridiculous. This is not verified. But
it launches into games, but not comfortably playable, I guess.
No, you have to use community stuff like lossless scaling to get it working, stuff like that, or wait for patches. But yeah. But anyway, in summary, you enjoy it. You kind of don't regret it, but you're going to wait and see what comes out in the near future and possibly exchange this for something else.
Yeah, I am genuinely excited for future products. And yeah, so I never thought I would be, but I'm quite happy to be in this space.